Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is where you are tuning in. Thank you for joining me for the next episode of A Voice from the Ever Change. Now, you may have noticed that we've stopped numbering these episodes, and that was intentionally done because the idea is to really allow people to not feel daunted by the amount of episodes we've done. There's quite a few now. But also to give it more of a feel of each episode is a standalone entity. And that's exactly how it is. Each episode, you can watch episode 10, episode 5, episode 20, episode 3, and it'll all make sense in that way. So you don't have to watch them in a series like that, because that can feel like quite a lot. There's over a month worth of material there at this point. So at your leisure, if you feel like going back through the older episodes, they're all of benefit. And again, it doesn't have to be in any particular order. So if this is your first time tuning in, where have you been? No, I'm just kidding. If this is your first time tuning in to A Voice from the Ever Change, welcome. So this is a meditation program, and I will ring the bell and I'll guide a meditation. Today we'll go start the meditation with the sound of the bell, and then we'll go into the breath, just experiencing the breath, going through the body very briefly, what I call an abbreviated body scan. We just kind of touch in with areas of the body. And we do this because the sensations of the breath and the body are always present moment experiences. Now you can remember perhaps a toothache that you had a week ago, but you can't take medicine for that toothache today for the pain of last week, right? So that's always a present moment experience. The sensations are always right now. Even though we remember past pains, that's still in the past. As well, you can anticipate a future pain. For example, if you're going to have surgery in a week or two, you might think, wow, that might be really painful. That's probably going to hurt. But you can't take medicine, you can't take anesthesia for that surgery today, right? That you're going to have in a week from now. So bodily sensations, always right now. Breath, same thing, always right now. So we rest with the breath in the body, and then we expand awareness again to include any sounds. Sounds are again always present moment experiences. So each stage of this meditation is another opportunity to become intimate with the present moment. Another window into the here and now, so to speak. Now, in addition to that, there's probably going to be thoughts. Most everyone who sits down to meditate, even if you just meditate for a minute or two, you know that the mind always wants to be thinking. So the tool that I like to offer here in this practice, and what I use in my own practice, is that whenever we become distracted by our thoughts, we label those thoughts with the word thinking. Say, oh, I'm thinking. And what you'll notice is when you label the thought process with the word thinking, those thoughts tend to dissolve rather effortlessly. You don't have to push them away. There's no stress or strain about it. You just say thinking, that thought will dissolve. Now there's probably another thought coming up right after that. And again, you just say thinking and that thought will dissolve. Now, with enough repetition of that, eventually what starts to be felt is the space in between the thoughts. And with a little more practice, that space becomes a little bit wider, a little bit wider, a little bit wider. And that's how we start to bring a sense of peace to the mind, a sense of stillness to the mind. Actually, that's quite the wrong way to express that phrase. The stillness, the peace, the silence is actually always in the mind. But it's just that our mind is too active with thoughts to notice the stillness. So again, saying thinking, letting those thoughts dissolve, coming back, thoughts come up again, you say thinking, letting those thoughts dissolve, coming back. We're teasing apart the thoughts. And from that space in between the thoughts, the silence, the stillness begins to emerge like that. So that's the technique in a nutshell. Now, if you want more about that, I have a three-part series on the website, www.suchsweetthunder.org. Mindfulness Made Simple. There are 3 15-minute long videos going a little more detailed into how one practices mindfulness meditation. If you'd like a little more instruction, after this is over, don't go now. After this is over, go visit the website and check out those videos. You might find those beneficial. Okay, I think that's all I want to say. Oh, right. So my thinking mind just reminded me. So I'm going to guide this meditation using those techniques that I mentioned. And then after the meditation, that portion of the meditation, I'll offer a poem into the silent space. Now, the idea is to allow the words of the poem to guide your awareness wherever you may want to go, wherever your awareness may want to go. Then after the poem, I'll offer a commentary, again, allowing the commentary to serve as an extension of the guided meditation. So it's, in a way, you can think of this meditation as in 3 parts. A formal guided meditation, basic mindfulness meditation. That's the first part. The second part, the poem. The third part, the commentary. Now, the poem and the commentary is all read from my latest book, A Voice from the Ever-Change is the title of the book. If you'd like a copy of the book, please do send over your email address through in a comment or in the messenger, and I'll send you a copy, a PDF file of A Voice from the Ever-Change if you'd like to follow along. Okay, I think that's it. I'll ring the bell. I hope you all enjoy, find it beneficial, and if not beneficial, at least somewhat entertaining. So allowing the body, mind, and heart to rest. Just coming into this present moment experience. Noticing the breath entering and leaving the nose. Perhaps noticing a cool or a dry sensation arising from the nostrils as you inhale and exhale. Noticing the breath as it touches the back of the throat, perhaps noticing the temperature changing from cooler to warmer as you inhale and exhale. Noticing the rib cage expanding and contracting with each breath. You might notice sensations of clothing moving to adjust with the rising and falling of the shoulders, chest, and abdomen as you breathe in and breathe out. You might also notice the back moving out as you breathe in as you breathe out. Noticing the shoulders rising and falling with each breath. You might also notice the body straightening up slightly on the in-breath and leaning forward slightly on the out-breath. And so we'll rest right there just for a few moments, maintaining awareness on the sensations of the breath. Sensations arising from the nose, the back of the throat, the chest and shoulders and back and abdomen, and any other sensations that you might notice arising as a result of the breathing process. And just rest, breathing in and breathing out. And if at any time during the meditation you become distracted by your thoughts, simply labeling those thoughts with the word thinking will allow the thoughts to dissolve, and you can gently return back to the present moment. And breathing in and breathing out, allowing awareness to expand again to include the sensations of clothing against the shoulders. Noticing the arms against the body. The hands resting against the body or touching each other. And perhaps noticing the sensations of clothing against the back. The weight of the body against the cushion or chair, mat or floor. You might notice sensations of clothing against the legs, the feet against the mat or the floor. You might also notice sensations arising from the back of the neck, the sides of the neck, sensations arising from the back of the head and the ears, allowing awareness to move into the cheeks of the face, noticing any sensations arising from the face, including the lips and the nose, the eyes and the forehead. Noticing any sensations arising from the top of the head. And so we'll rest right there just for a few moments, maintaining open, spacious awareness on the sensations of the breath, from the nose to the abdomen to the nose, and sensations arising throughout the body, from the top of the head to the bottoms of the feet. And just rest, breathing in and breathing out. And if at any time you become distracted by your thoughts, simply labeling those thoughts with the word thinking will allow the thoughts to dissolve, and you can gently return back to the present moment experience. And now, while resting in this present moment, sensations of the breath and the body, allowing awareness to expand again to include any sounds which might be available during this present moment experience. There might be the sound of a neighbor's television or music playing. There might be the sound of a conversation happening nearby, perhaps a car passing, the window outside. Perhaps you can hear the bird songs or a gecko. Not focusing on any one sound in particular, but noticing the entire field of sounds, hearing all of the sounds all at the same time. And in addition to any sounds, paying close attention to the quality of still silence within the sense of hearing. There's always this backdrop of silent space, and when we listen to it, we might notice how this still silence seems to surround the present moment. And so we'll rest right there, maintaining open, spacious awareness on the silence and sound, sensations of body and breath, and just rest. The poem. In meditation, we take time to experience the present moment through the eyes of non-judgment, to see ourselves through the eyes of non-judgment. In seeing ourselves and the present moment through the eyes of non-judgment, we experience others with those same eyes. The absence of judgment is one way of defining love. Is there any greater gift to give another, to give ourselves? Eyes of non-judgment. Rest here in this present moment, a radical embrace of just this, just rest. The commentary. As I inhale, I know that I am breathing in. I acknowledge the in-breath as the experience of the cool air brushing against the dry flesh of my nostrils. The in-breath transmutes from cool to cooler as the air flows over the hair within my nasal passage. I notice a dry tingle at the back of my throat and wish I had gotten a drink of water prior to the start of the practice. Oops, judgment. I simply label the thirst judgment with the label thinking, and I let that go, reminding myself to rest in the experience of whatever arises, regardless of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral feeling tones which may reveal themselves. Starting again, I notice the breath entering and leaving the nose. This time, I recognize how much warmer the breath is on the exhale. I also notice that I am breathing in more air through one nostril, In addition to this, I become acutely aware of the same dry tingle at the back of the throat, and I allow the sensation to act as a reminder to rest. I then proceed to include the sensations which arise as a result of the rib cage expanding with each in-breath, most notably the soft brush of clothing moving across my body with the rising and falling of the chest and abdomen. There is a tightness in my diaphragm where I am carrying stress. This tightness acts as another reminder to remain in the experience rather than stepping out of the experience by judging, comparing, or wishing the experience were somehow different. I allow myself to just rest. On and on, systematically including more and more of the breath and body into awareness. Allowing awareness to be expansive and vast, I rest in the experience of the breath and body all at the same time, all as one experience. Thoughts are coming and going. They arise, and if I can rest in the experience of that moment without feeding the thoughts, they gradually fade and disappear. No applause, please. No congratulatory thoughts. This is the practice. If an enticing, juicy fantasy arises and sweeps me away, well, that is simply what happens. That is just a distraction. I label that fantasy with the word thinking as soon as I recognize the distraction for what it is, and it fades away. No judgment, no shame. This is the human condition. If thoughts laced with anger, jealousy, or coveting arise, I know that is also nothing but distraction arising again. Upon recognizing the distraction, I label it, allowing it to dissolve and return back to the present moment experience. No judgment, no critique, no right and no wrong. The more we do this type of practice, the more likely we are to encounter our internal dark side, our shadow, if you will. This occurs because some part of us recognizes the healing opportunity inherent in visiting our untouched memories, thoughts, and desires which have long been considered inappropriate, taboo, or somehow shameful. Our beautiful internal shadow now has a window from which to shine, be seen, and held. This unconscious material needs to breathe, vent, to be felt, and be made conscious in order to heal and rejoin our conscious awareness, for us to be made whole, if you will. If our shadow remains in the unconscious, it gives rise to countless illnesses, including self-limiting beliefs and thoughts, harmful and/or toxic behaviors, neuroses, pathologies, and addictions. One of the most beautiful gifts a meditation practice may provide us with is an opportunity to see and embrace our own shadow. The seeing of the shadow is the healing of the shadow, for all that needs to be done is to make the unconscious conscious with a non-judging, equanimous, open heart. Our task at this stage of meditation practice is to embrace our darkness and allow the light of awareness to shine on and heal those long-hidden aspects of our unconscious, both the sadness and the joy. The reuniting with our shadow is truly one of the most important, loving, compassionate tasks we can embark on. As shadow healing is being practiced, we take the opportunity to see and know our dark side intimately, without judgment. It is with that insight which we may then begin to extend compassion to others. Having seen how our shadow material has brought us into limitations, confusions, and suffering, we clearly see how others are confused but have not yet recognized it. These friends of ours are still under the influence of their own unconscious, much the same way we were before our journey started. In our interactions with people, we can be the grounding force which, because we see their shadow at work, we do not feed into the confusion and pain which is arising for them. We can step outside and see with non-judgment clearly what is happening, and we can simply hold space for our friend who is suffering. This might be done simply by being a silent presence, or by offering a well-timed word of advice or a smile. In any case, we try to help not because we are uncomfortable with seeing our friends struggle, but because we know the same suffering very intimately, and we wish for them to be free of that suffering. In other words, we do not project our own needs onto our friend's situation, but rather, we see the situation free from our own preferences and prejudices, and act according to the needs of the person in front of us. We become completely responsive to the directionality of the present moment. This is a very important distinction. When we act to help another based on how we might feel in our friend's situation, we are then projecting our own needs, wants, and desires onto their suffering. And then we move to help from that place. Generally, I have found that when help comes laced with this type of projection and uncomfortable energy, it feels quite empty. That person is then helping me in my struggle to alleviate their own discomfort. In other words, they really mean to help themselves. This, I have found, usually adds more confusion and pain to the situation. If my friend can move forward without his idea of what he thinks he would like or need in order to feel better were he in my shoes, then he is more likely to see the subtleties and nuances of the predicament at hand and how my suffering is arising in relation to that situation. My friend is now much more likely to experience the situation as it arises in the present moment, and thus more likely to move in an effective way to help. How do we cultivate this skill? A great way is, as I mentioned earlier, to take the time in meditation to experience oneself free from non-judgment. Practice looking through the eyes of non-judgment into one's own heart, body, and mind. When we can rest in equanimity for ourselves, we gradually extend this to others and other situations as well. In this cultivation on the equanimous heart, we find healing love and ultimately freedom. Not only freedom for ourselves, but freedom for all beings. thank you for joining me for that. I hope you all found the guided meditation, the poem, and the commentary beneficial, insightful perhaps. So here in this poem, in this commentary, I'm really talking about going into a meditation practice, seeing our mind, the types of thoughts that arise, the type of traps our mind leads us into while we're meditating. And that's the great gift of being able to come to a place of silence and to watch our mind as we actually see how our mind functions, the directionality of our thinking process. And we begin to unhook ourselves from that. We step away from it and just observe it without judging. The non-judging quality of meditation is very, very important. It was actually the great sage Krishnamurti who once commented that the highest form of human intelligence is the capability of seeing ourselves through the eyes of non-judgment. And because the more we experience our own mind, our own body, our own heart through the eyes of non-judgment, the easier it is to experience other people, situations through those same eyes, the eyes of non-judgment. Now, when we cultivate a practice like this, inevitably, is what I was pointing to in the commentary, we start to see parts of our mind, of our heart, that we didn't know were there. We might have known that was there, but we thought, well, we'd rather not look at that. And this happens because we're practicing that non-judgment. So as we practice more equanimity towards our own mind and heart, we say, well, maybe we can look at that. Maybe we can visit that. And so what I call, what many people, psychologists and therapists call the shadow. The shadow tends to start to arise. And even the Buddha encountered the shadow, his own shadow, in meditation. They called it Mara. In Buddhist cosmology and mythology, we see this figure, Mara, appear time and time again throughout the Buddha's career. 40 times, 40 times after he was enlightened. So even as an enlightened being, the Buddha continued to encounter his own shadow material. So I think we can look at that and take heart. We know that the shadow is always going to be with us. We never completely assimilate that, but we learn how to function and how to embrace it. We befriend our shadow in that way. So as we do this kind of work, we don't push it away, but we learn to smile with it. We learn to embrace it. Now, this type of practice sometimes can be very well assisted by a therapist or a counselor. It's actually one of the great aspects of working here at the New Life Foundation in Chiang Rai in Thailand, where this is being broadcast from. When we reopen, I will be working alongside a team of counselors and therapists, a wonderful team of very, very beautiful counselors and therapists offering all different sorts of modalities and healing, so that when the shadow does come up, sometimes, it helps to talk to somebody who has some other experiences with shadow work, so that can be more easily assimilated. And so again, I tend to look at the team up or the pairing of meditation or mindfulness and counseling or therapy as kind of a 1-2 healing punch. They really, really work beautifully in coordination with each other. So if you're meditating, if you have a meditation practice, or if you're just starting meditating, there can be some times where things can arise, get pretty hot. Might be a good idea then to talk to somebody about those experiences, a very good qualified meditation teacher, a counselor, a therapist, so forth, like that. So that can happen and does very often happen, particularly with long-term meditators. I know for myself, Some of my largest months or years of growth happened when I was coordinating my own meditation practice with a counselor, with a therapist. I found that to be highly beneficial. So when we practice looking at ourselves through the eyes of non-judgment, we see others through those same eyes. And we see other experiences through those same eyes. Now, I hardly even need to mention how that might be beneficial in today's world climate, right? And I know I've talked about that at great lengths in the past 2 episodes, but just to touch on it in case you've just joined me, there's so much judging right now because we all have an idea. Well, we're all in, I'd say most of the world is in a situation that is just slightly uncomfortable or great or going up degrees of discomfort. I think the baseline is moderately discomfort, and some people are very, very unfortunate in this situation. They're probably very uncomfortable. So I think most everyone, when we're in a situation that we find uncomfortable, we judge that situation as right or wrong, good or bad, high or low, light or dark, so forth. So as we cultivate this heart of equanimity, as we cultivate these eyes of equanimity, we can at least step out of the judging and experience what's arising free from the judging mind. Discomfort, pain is inevitable. Challenges are inevitable in the human life. It's part of having a human body, a human mind, a human heart. We all experience aging, sickness, and death. Being in a human body, inhabiting a planet called Earth, it's impossible to live a life that is free from discomfort. But what can really help that is when we drop the judging mind about what's arising. And we just walk into the situation, accept the situation as it arises, see it as it arises. Comes with the mind that says, oh, this shouldn't be happening, or I wish it was like this, or I wish it was like that, I don't deserve this, it needs to be this way, it needs to... That's all suffering. That's optional. We don't need to do that. And again, here's where that technique of saying thinking comes in so beautifully. When we're caught in that mind, that judging mind, it should be this way, I can't believe they said that, I can't believe they did this, it needs to be that way. Thinking. Let those thoughts dissolve. Come back. What is happening right now? Sensations of clothing on my body, the body in the chair or the mat or the floor, the sounds of the present moment, the breath entering the body. What is happening right now? Then the mind might, oh, but it should be this, I can't believe that, and I can't believe this is terrible. Thinking. That's all judging. Now, those judges might be warranted. That judgment might be exactly what you feel to be accurate. But it's still the judging mind. Thinking, let those go. Coming back to the present moment, time and time again. The present moment, that equanimous heart, that equanimous mind, there's relief there. There's a respite, at least for a moment, from the suffering. Take that respite. So I think that's all I want to say today. Thank you for joining me for this edition of A Voice from the Ever-Change. I will be back again tomorrow, and I think tomorrow I'm going to do another Q&A session. I've been getting some really interesting questions. They're starting to stack up. So I'm going to take another diversion off the path of reading from the book, read commentary, and I'll answer a few questions. One question in particular that came up that I will definitely address tomorrow is, how can I find rest? How can I rest in the COVID-19 situation? So I'll be talking about that tomorrow. So please do tune in. There's a couple of other questions that I don't remember offhand, but I will bring those as well. Stay clean, stay healthy, practice your social distancing, stay home if you can, wash your hands, wear your masks. Let's flatten the curve. Let's get through this together. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you tomorrow.